What can I say about this bike? It's comfy, but this is a bit of a cruiser and a bit of a beast. But I suppose it all depends on what seat you've got. I know these get custom quite a bit, so you know you might get a seat on it that's not as comfy, so somebody's opinion of comfy is going to be completely different to another. But it's very torquey. It's a 1450 engine, the V-twin, and it's very thumpy, very torquey. I wouldn't say it's fast, but if you want the speeds on the motorways for overtaking and that, it's perfect. You know, you can be quite happily cruising along at 60, 70 mile an hour, and then just need a sudden burst of power just to get past and get you out of a compromising position, and it does go. It is very torquey indeed, so that's really good. I mean, the styles of it looks great, and again it depends on what you do to custom it. This is a carburettor model. It's the 2002, as I've explained earlier. But it is what it is. It's a bike that is just for cruising around on. And it certainly gets some looks. Not that it's all about that, but it's nice to have somebody appreciate the bikes, even if they're not bikers, which seems to happen. People come up and talk to me all the time about it, you know, and say what a nice bike it is. I mean, that tyre on the back as well, it does feel like it gives you a lot more support into the bends, but I think it also contributes to, it's a 240 wide tyre, but it also contributes to the drag. I can explain it, you know, the only way I could probably explain it is a bit of a drag to get around a bend. It feels like, I mean, it's not a particularly long bike, and when I say long bike, I mean you've got things like the Hayabusa, which is like a long bike. I mean, that's probably, you know, probably a bad example, because that probably would be really good into the corners. I'm not really sure whether it would be, because it is a long bike, but it's made for straight line speed, because it is quite a long bike. So, you know, stop the front end coming up, get your head down, and off you go in a straight line. Now this is it looks a bit shorter. Now whether it's because it hasn't got the extended sort of original rear mudguard on it, I'm not sure, but it has got that sort of shorter feel to it. When you throw it into corners, it feels like you're working it into the corner. You know, you have to get a good line into the corner. It's not very forgiving if you make the wrong choice, and it feels heavy again trying to get it back in. But again, I suppose that's down to people's individual experience on bikes and how good you are, you know, and whether you're confident enough to just throw it into that corner and sort of just drop the bike. I mean, you certainly got to counter steer into a corner. You know, you can't lean. You can't lean into a corner. Well, that'll take over once you counter steer and drop the bike, you know, into the corner. So, but again, it is a cruising bike, it's not a racing bike. It feels like a big slab of American muscle. It's definitely got road presence. You can hear that engine. I mean, the mirrors, I don't know if they're a stock standard mirror, but they're not vibrating, they're quite good. All the chrome on it is all added extra, not from me, from it would like that when I bought it. I've owned this bike for, I think it's about a couple of months now. I've got forward pegs, my feet facing forward, which just adds to the comfort of the ride. I've not particularly took it on a long ride. I think the most I've done is probably over, well, about 200 miles in sort of one hit. See, it has got the torque when you want. It just feels like it takes a bit of time to sort of get up to that speed. The fuel range is not the greatest. You think, you know, I was under the illusion that big tank, a lot of mileage, but I suppose the 1450 engine is just going to eat a lot of that up anyway. But you can pretty much go around a sort of, you know, you're filling up every sort of like 110, 120 miles. But again, that's down to particular riding styles. It's an air-cooled bike. So today, it's 5 degrees, 4 degrees, and that wind chill of about 1 degree. It's not going to bother it, but sat in heavy traffic, which I've done, you do feel the heat from the engine, especially the oil. The tank on the right hand side gets particularly hot, and you do sometimes feel that on your inner leg. Not over bad, and again I suppose it depends on what riding gear you've got on, whether you've got the Kevlars on that are gonna take that bit, you know, reduce that heat a little bit. So these just come pulling out, look, without even looking. Don't you just love them? I mean, they probably had a quick glance over, but going at that sort of speed, they're not going to stop, are they? Idiots. If I compare this to the Sportster that I had, the Sportster was a lot of fun to ride, very flickable into corners. This sort of, you know, it's the big, takes its time, gets around those corners, but it is a lot heavier bike than, I think it's over 300 kg in weight. It is quite low down. It's about, with this seat on, again different seats may alter slightly, but with this seat on, it's 810 millimeters from the floor. I've got a 32 inside leg, so it's quite comfortable to put your feet down, hold the bike up. I've never really sort of tipped the bike past its centre of gravity, so I'm not sure how heavy it is, how, you know, if I had to save it, would I be able to save it? I'm not sure. I don't think I would, because it is quite a heavy bike, like I say. But it's just got the pull. It's got the pull when you need it. Now this one hasn't got a windshield on, and it is quite blustery. Again, the Harley indicators, you've got one on each side, which the one on the left hand side is not too bad. It's quite easy to press, but the throttle one can be quite difficult sometimes, especially if you're throttling and want to indicate. You've sort of got to readjust your grip so you can press that indicator. But it's a Harley thing, and I suppose you get used to it. I've got used to it. I don't really think about it anymore. I like how this has got a fuel tank, a fuel gauge as well. That comes in quite handy. It's not a digital. I think you can swap them out for a digital one. This is a mechanical one. Whether it's calibrated correctly, I don't know. It's a 2002 bike. It's covered about 50,000 miles, but it's got the complete dog's nuts of history with it. So I do tend to trust the bike. I mean, it sounds lovely. The front tyre on this is 130, so it's the same sort of size as what my rear tyre was on the Sportster. The rear tyre is 240, so it's quite a wide tyre. It's like a car tyre. Oh dear. It's got nice big original indicators on. I mean, the horn on this, I'm not going to do it now because I'm in a load of traffic. I will be coming back up this road because I need to turn off, go the other way. I didn't want to come this far, but it's a bit dangerous to take a right turn, so I'm going to sort of drop down here, turn the bike, come back up and then drop off. When you find that first gear, it's very, very clunky. It's like you're putting a big transformer robot into gear. It's like it goes with a real big clunk. I don't know if that's normal. I think it is. I've sort of looked at other reviews on these, and there were one particular review I looked at. I can't remember his name, apologies for that, but he said the same sort of thing. I mean, once you're sort of going and you're changing in the gears are, you know, they're there, put it that way. The gears are quite straight in. Now with this bike, you've got the oil for the clutch is separate oil. So you've got separate transmission oil, separate clutch oil, and separate engine oil. There's like 3 different oils. If you go onto YouTube, I think this applies for all sort of Softail models. I don't know if it's all of the Harleys. I mean, this is a Fatboy, but it is classed as a Softail as well. But if you go onto YouTube and look up Del Boy's Garage, he actually has got some videos on how to change all those oils and how to purge the engine oil, so you actually get every little drop of the old existing oil out. It's quite interesting. It's a little bit, it doesn't really look that technical, but I think it's a little bit above my pay grade. But you know, who knows, I might attempt it. It'd be nice to give it a complete blood transfusion, if you like. The transmission oil, you've got to take the front the gearbox oil, you've got to take the front cover off. It's got no gauge for that. That's on the left hand side of the bike, so if I'm sat now, it's on my left. You have to take the front cover off, and I'm going to try and blob in here now, so this might be a little bit difficult, but we shall have a go. You going to let me in? No. So just spin it around here. Yeah, that's better. Perfect. So this has got a choke on it. When it's cold like this, you definitely have to pull the choke and prime the engine. But it seems to kick in. I've got a decent battery on it. I think you need a decent battery to turn this big lump of a bike. But yeah, so what I was saying about the oil, so on the left hand side, the clutch, you take the clutch plate off and you can look down and you can see the level of oil. The way he does it is he puts it and measures it, so whatever comes out he puts back in, which makes complete sense, I suppose. So that's on that side. The transmission side, you've got like an Allen key. That's on the right hand side, the same side as the engine filler cap. So that's on the right. So I'm sat on the bike here, it's on my right hand side. Now that one, on the Allen key, you don't over tighten that. it's chewed up a little bit on this one, where it looks like somebody's over tightened it, but because you've got an O-ring on there, you know, you just have to nip it up. If you undo that, then you pull out a dipstick so you can check the levels. So you do it as the bike's sat upright. That's what it says in the manual. Some people disagree and say you do it on the kickstand, but who's wrong, them or me? My manual says do it stood up, I do it stood up, and I also do it warm. So that's your transmission. The engine oil, that has got a dipstick which you just pull out, check your levels. You have to stand the bike up for that. Now it's quite easy when I do it, because when I've been for a ride when the engine's warm, I've got one of those sort of like the easy, because it hasn't got a centre stand, the easiest way for me to do it is to put it on one of those like flat scissor jack things, and it sort of straightens the bike up, which makes it quite easy rather than trying to hold the bike up and juggle it. So I do that when I get a bike. I tend to put it on that anyway to keep it upright. Sometimes if I'm not riding for a long time, I'll pull the lift the back wheel off the floor, or just take the weight off it anyway. But I've actually bought, you can buy so much things for these bikes. I've actually bought an oil dipstick that's got like a temperature gauge on it, because you've got no temperature gauge on the bike. I've not really ridden many bikes with the oil temperature gauge on them. It's more the water, the temperature that way. But the oil, it's quite handy to have, because if you want to warm the bike up, then you've got that to sort of gauge, you know, once it gets quite warm, you know, you're good to go. So that helps, and that it looks like quite a nice little feature as well. Now there's the preconceptions that people who've got Fatboys and then put, like, as a call, make them into baggers, if you like. You know, you get other people saying, well, it's a Fatboy, why would you put, if you wanted, you know, a bike that's a bagger, why don't you just buy a Softail, buy a Road King or something like that? I sort of a little bit, well, I disagree, because you can get bags now that can clip on and clip off. Bags are put on because they're functional. I don't think, you know, anyone will put a bag on for the aesthetics purposes. Now they might ride without anything in, but I'm sure if they've got them on there, they are going to use them. There's so many things you can buy for these. These drag bars are so comfortable that I've got on here as well. I'm sat completely upright. It's brilliant. It's got the Vance and Hines 2x2 big radius pipes, add to the sound. Very noisy. Normally wear my earplugs. I think you need earplugs if you're going on long journeys. Pops a little bit. It's got a heavy breather air filter on the side. It's like a cone shape. You can get a lot of extras. It's belt driven, so it is so smooth. It really is smooth, and I absolutely love it. But again, I've only ever ridden the Sportster, which is a completely, oh yeah, where we closed here then? Is it closed all the way up here, or do I need to turn around? Sometimes you have signs like that and then there's nothing there. Ah, yeah, I ain't going through here. Good lad, thank you, mate. Yeah. No dramas there. I'm not particularly sort of overwhelmed with all the chrome. I do like it. It does look nice. You know, it adds to the retroness, if you like, of the bike. Some people like a lot of chrome. I like a bit of chrome. Makes you wonder why I bought this bike, but I have bought the bike and I love it. I mean, it wasn't a bad price at the end of the day, and it's a Harley Davidson, and I love it. And I don't think I'd go to any other bike. I'd have another bike in addition, but I don't think I'd go to any other bike. So that's the ride. So let's have a walk around. Fatboy 2002. Got solid wheels. Well, one thing I didn't mention about the solid wheels was there's a lot of people saying that they're not very good on highway speed and flutter, but you know, it doesn't bother me at all. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. So I've got an aftermarket LED light on there. And turn it on. There you go. That's pretty bright. That's an aftermarket. The other ones I've mentioned before in the Sportster one, they're not the greatest. So it's keyless ignition. I mean, look at that front tyre. A lot of chrome on it. There's your heavy breather, air filter, the engine, Vance and Hines 2-in-2 exhaust. So that back light is actually off my Kawasaki. Just need a bit of fettling on it, but I put that on because somebody put one on the side and it wasn't very bright, and guys behind me were saying that they couldn't see me when I was braking, so I've had to change that out, which don't look too bad. So look at the width of the tyre, 240. Here's the pegs. You can see you can buy the proper kits for these to do that back tyre, back wheel. I've stuck the rack on at the minute, and the single seat. I have got a double seat with a pillion, but I like the look of that one better. There's so much chrome on it. There's the horn under there. Yeah, she's a beauty. This is your clutch cover. This is what you have to take off and check the fluids, and you check them down in the sump of it. Fortunately, on this side, that's your oil for your dipstick. That's what I was talking about with the temperature of the oil. And then down here, that's your transmission. So you just take that out. You just have to nip that up, by the way, don't over tighten it. But there she is, my beautiful Fatboy 2002 Harley Davidson. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon. See you later.